Commander Lyra Valen stood alone inside the silent hangar bay. The great metal walls echoed with the hum of machines, but to her ears the sound felt distant, almost hollow. In front of her stood the broken remains of a starfighter, burned and twisted, still carrying the black scars of battle. The ship had belonged to her partner, Cael'thir. Her chest tightened as she looked at the wreckage. The Dominion's repair teams had dragged it back from the battlefield, but there was no repairing what she had lost. Cael'thir was gone. For years he had been her other half in war. Tall, strong, and proud, Cael'thir had flown beside her through countless missions. He had pulled her from fire when enemy plasma nearly burned her alive. He had stood with her when their squad was outnumbered, his calm voice steady over the saying, "Stay sharp, Lyra, we fight together." And then just like that, he was gone. The ambush had been sudden. Raiders, cowards who preyed on supply lines, had lured their squad into a trap near the edge of the Velos system. Explosions filled the void, enemy fire coming from every direction. Lyra had fought furiously, but the trap was too tight. She remembered Cael'thir's ship being hit, flames burning across his wings. His last words had been a cry of defiance, before his ship slammed into an enemy cruiser, destroying it in a blaze of light. The Dominion called it an honorable sacrifice. To Lyra, it was a wound that would never close. Now she stood with her fists clenched, her golden eyes staring at the wreck. She whispered his name softly, almost like a prayer. Cael'thir. Her voice broke. She quickly turned away, unwilling to let anyone see her weakness. A commander of the Arkan Dominion was supposed to be strong, unshaken, unbroken, but inside she was shattering. Days later, Lyra was summoned to the command chamber. The Dominion wasted no time. Losses had to be replaced. Partnerships could not be broken for long. The chamber was cold, filled with glowing blue light. The High Captain addressed her with a voice of stone. "Commander Lyra Valen," he said, "your partner has fallen with honor. The Dominion recognizes his sacrifice, but the war does not pause for grief. You are reassigned." Her throat tightened. Reassigned? With who? The doors opened. A man stepped inside. His figure was different from the Arkans, shorter, broader, and his skin pale compared to their scaled features. His eyes, however, carried a sharpness that Lyra did not miss. "Daniel Cross," the High Captain said. "Human soldier. He will serve as your new combat partner." Lyra's jaw clenched. Her heart pounded with anger. A human. Of all choices, they had given her a human. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage. The Dominion had only allied with them a few years ago. Many Arkans whispered that humans were unstable, reckless, creatures of chaos who had somehow survived their dangerous world by stubborn luck. They lacked discipline, they lacked refinement. To Lyra, they were unworthy of trust in serious war. Her chest burned with rage. Was this their idea of honor? To give her Cael'thir's place filled by some primitive outsider? "I don't accept this," she said coldly. Her voice carried through the chamber. "My partner was Cael'thir. No one replaces him, least of all this." She gestured at Daniel with sharp disgust. The human did not flinch. He stood tall, hands behind his back, his face calm, but his eyes steady. "With respect, Commander," Daniel said. His voice was deep, steady. "I'm not here to replace anyone. I'm here to fight. If you don't want me, say so. But the enemy won't wait while you grieve." Lyra's hands curled into fists. She wanted to strike him, to wipe that calm expression from his face, but the High Captain's voice cut her thoughts short. "Enough," he commanded. "The Dominion decides. Not grief. Not pride. You will work together, Commander Valen, or you will answer for disobedience." Silence filled the chamber. Lyra swallowed her fury, lowering her head only slightly. "Yes, High Captain." The decision was made. There was no escape. That night, Lyra sat in her quarters. The silence pressed heavy on her. On her desk lay Cael'thir's insignia badge, scorched, but still shining faintly. She picked it up, holding it tightly, feeling the weight of memory. She remembered his laughter, his calm advice, his loyalty that never broke. And now, tomorrow, she would have to stand beside a human, an alien outsider who dared to walk in. Kelter's place, her teeth ground together. "I won't accept it," she whispered. "Not him. Never him." The next day, the squad gathered for briefing. Lyra walked in, her armor gleaming, her face set in cold determination. Daniel stood at her side, already dressed in Dominion combat gear. It looked strange on him, too. Foreign, too unfamiliar. He looked like a shadow in someone else's colors. The squad eyed him curiously. Some smirked, others muttered quietly. Humans were still new to them as well. Most Arkans doubted their worth. Lyra raised her chin. "We have a mission," she said. Her voice was sharp as a blade. "Raiders have been sighted in the Velos Belt. We will intercept and destroy them. Precision is key. Discipline will win this battle. Follow orders, no exceptions." Her eyes flicked toward Daniel. "Especially you." Daniel simply nodded. "Understood, Commander." The mission began hours later. Their squad of fighters streaked across the stars, engines glowing against the darkness. Lyra sat in her cockpit, Kelthier's old seat beside her, now filled with Daniel's ship. It felt wrong. Everything about it felt wrong. She gave crisp orders, her voice steady. The squad moved like a blade, silent, sharp, perfect. Then the raiders came. Ships burst from the asteroid belt, guns blazing. Plasma fire lit the void. Lyra's squad formed tight formations, shields locking together. She barked orders, holding them firm. But Daniel broke formation. He shot forward, his fighter, weaving through enemy fire. Plasma bolts streaked past him, but he moved with wild precision, as if chaos itself bent around him. He dove into the raider line, blasting apart 2 ships before they could flank the squad. "Cross!" Lyra shouted over comms. "Fall back! You're breaking formation." "No time," Daniel's voice came back, calm but urgent. "They're trying to encircle us. I'll cut them off." Lyra's fury boiled. He was reckless, disobedient, everything she despised. And yet, the maneuver worked. The raiders fell into disarray, their trap broken before it could close. The squad surged forward, destroying the remaining ships with precise fire. Victory. The squad cheered. Daniel's fighter drifted back into formation, smoke trailing from its wings. His calm voice crackled over comms. "Target neutralized. Mission complete." Lyra's claws dug into her armrest. Her voice was ice. "Human," she hissed. "You disobeyed orders. You risked the squad. If you were anyone else, I'd have you, stripped of rank." There was silence for a moment. Then Daniel answered. "And if I hadn't?" he asked quietly. "How many of your squad would be dead?" Her heart froze. For a brief second, she had no answer. The squad flew on, victorious. But inside Lyra, the storm only grew stronger. She despised him, his recklessness, his calm defiance, his very presence beside her. The hangar buzzed with the sound of tools and shouting engineers as the squad's ships were checked after battle. Victory had been theirs, but for Lyra Valen, there was no joy in it. She stood stiffly, her arms crossed, watching Daniel Cross climb down from his fighter. His armor was singed from plasma burns and grease smudged his cheek, yet his calm expression never faltered. Her squad cheered his name. Some even clapped his back as he passed. Lyra's jaw tightened. Every cheer, for him, felt like a wound. "Cross," she barked, her voice sharp enough to cut steel. "With me." He followed her without protest, though his steady eyes told her he knew what was coming. They walked into a quiet corner of the hangar, far from the crew. Lyra turned on him, her golden eyes blazing. "You disobeyed my orders," she snapped. "You broke formation. Do you even understand what that means? Discipline keeps squads alive. Recklessness gets them killed." Daniel met her fury without flinching. "And if I had followed your orders, the raiders would have boxed us in. Half the squad would be dead." "You don't know that." Her voice trembled with anger. "Yes, I do," he said firmly. "I saw their movement. You were focused on holding the line, but they were circling. I had to act." Her hands curled into fists. The worst part was that he was right. His wild maneuver had saved lives. But admitting that felt like betraying Caelthyr's memory. Her old partner had always followed orders, always trusted discipline, and, together, they had survived for years. "You think you're clever," she hissed. "You think you know better than me, but you're just a human. A reckless child playing soldier." For the first time, anger flashed in his eyes. His voice dropped lower, harder. "I'm not trying to be clever, Commander. I'm trying to keep your squad alive. If you can't see that, then maybe the problem isn't me." Lyra froze. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not Caelthyr. Not her squad, not even the High Captain. For a brief moment, she didn't know what to say. Finally, she turned sharply away. "You will follow my orders, human, or you will not fly again. Am I clear?" Daniel's jaw tightened, but he gave a short nod. Crystal clear. The next days were heavy with silence. The squad trained together, preparing for their next mission, but tension filled every corner. Lyra gave her orders coldly, her voice sharp as ice. Daniel obeyed them, on the surface. He flew where she told him, fired when she commanded, but she could sense the resistance beneath his calm exterior. At night, when the squad rested in the barracks, Lyra often caught him studying old Dominion battle reports on a datapad. One evening, curiosity got the better of her. She stepped close enough to glance at his screen. Her heart stopped. He was reading Caelthyr's service records. "What are you doing?" she demanded, her voice low and dangerous. Daniel looked up at her, his expression unreadable. "Learning." "Learning what?" "About your partner," he said simply. "About how he fought. About how you fought with him. If I'm going to stand beside you, I need to know what you lost." Lyra's breath caught in her throat. For a heartbeat, she felt her anger waver. But then the pain of memory surged back sharper than ever. "You have no right," she hissed. "Do not speak his name. You will never be him." Daniel's voice stayed calm, but his eyes carried something she had not noticed before. Something like sorrow. "I know," he said quietly. "I'm not here to replace him." She turned away, refusing to hear more. But the words lingered in her mind long after she tried to forget them. The next mission came sooner than expected. Raiders had been growing bold, striking deeper into Dominion space. Lyra's squad was tasked with escorting a supply convoy through the perilous lanes of the Zareth Expanse. The convoy stretched long, cargo ships heavy with food and weapons, vulnerable without escorts. The squad flew in formation, shields spread wide, eyes scanning the dark. Lyra's voice guided them, steady and precise, but tension still gripped her chest. She could feel Daniel's presence at her side, his fighter flying just close enough to follow orders but always carrying that hint of defiance. The attack came at dusk. Raiders burst from the asteroid field, dozens of them, more than reports had suggested. Plasma fire ripped through the void, striking the convoy. "Shields up! Hold formation!" Lyra commanded. The squad locked tight, their ships forming a wall around the convoy. Plasma slammed into their shields, sparks flying, alarms screaming. Lyra's heart raced, but her voice remained steady. Then she saw it. More raiders moving from behind, faster ships swooping toward the convoy's rear. Her squad couldn't turn. If they broke formation, the front line would collapse. She calculated quickly. There wasn't time. The convoy was going to be hit, and then Daniel moved. His fighter broke from formation, engines flaring as he shot backward toward the rear line. "Cross!" Lyra roared. "Get back in formation, that's an order!" "No time!" he shouted. His fighter weaved through plasma fire, guns blazing. He tore into the raider vanguard, blasting ship after ship before they could reach the convoy. Explosions lit the void around him, debris scattering. "Human!" Lyra's voice shook with rage and fear. "You'll get yourself killed." "Better me than the convoy," came his grim reply. Lyra's claws dug into her controls. She hated him, hated his defiance, his recklessness, his refusal to obey. But she also saw the truth. Without him, the convoy would have been destroyed. The battle raged on. The squad held the front while Daniel cut through the rear attackers. Plasma slammed into his shields, sparks showering his cockpit, but he refused to fall. Finally, the raiders broke. Their ships scattered, retreating back into the asteroid field. The convoy was safe. Lyra exhaled sharply, her chest burning, relief mixed with fury until she could hardly tell them apart. When the squad returned to base, cheers erupted once more. Soldiers clapped Daniel on the back, praising his daring maneuver. But Lyra's voice cut through the noise. "Cross. With me." He followed her into a quiet corridor. She turned on him, her anger burning hotter than ever. "You disobeyed me again," she spat. "Do you think this is a game? Do you think you can keep gambling with lives?" Daniel met her glare. His voice was steady, but his eyes were tired. "I saved the convoy. That's what mattered. You risked yourself, and—" His voice hardened. "That's what soldiers do. We risk ourselves so others don't die. Or did you forget that?" Her breath caught. For a moment, Kael'thir's face flashed. In her mind, his final moment. His ship diving into an enemy cruiser, his voice saying, "Stay sharp, Lyra. We fight together." Her chest ached. "You're reckless," she whispered. "One day your luck will run out." Daniel's gaze softened, but his words were firm. "Maybe. But until then, I'll keep fighting. With or without your approval." For a long moment, silence hung between them. Lyra's heart pounded, torn between rage and something she could not name. Finally, she turned away. "Do what you want, but don't expect me to respect you." Daniel's voice was quiet, almost sad. "I don't need your respect, just your trust." She froze. The words cut deeper than she wanted to admit. She did not answer. That night, Lyra sat in her quarters, Kael'thir's insignia badge resting in her palm. Daniel's words echoed. In her mind, "I'm not here to replace him. I'm here to fight." She wanted to hate him. She wanted to dismiss him as reckless, foolish, unworthy. But the image of his battered fighter defending the convoy replayed again and again. He had risked everything, not for glory, not for pride, but simply because it needed to be done. Her claws tightened around the badge. For the first time, doubt crept into her heart. The war did not wait for Lyra Valen's grief. Days after the convoy battle, the squad was assigned again, this time to escort a Dominion command shuttle carrying high-ranking officers through dangerous space. The mission was simple on paper: protect the shuttle, clear the path, return alive. But Lyra knew nothing in war was ever simple. Her squad gathered in the briefing room. Maps of the route glowed in the air, red marks showing possible ambush sites. Lyra stood before them, her armor polished, her posture stiff, her golden eyes hard. "We will follow a direct route," she said firmly. "The raiders will expect tricks, so we will give them none. Formation will hold. No improvising, no heroics. Discipline will win this mission." Her gaze swept across her soldiers and landed on Daniel Cross. He sat at the edge of the table, arms crossed, face calm but unreadable. Her voice sharpened. "Especially you." A quiet murmur rippled through the squad. Everyone knew the tension between them had grown like a storm, but no one dared speak it aloud. Daniel gave a short nod. "Understood, Commander." But something in his eyes told her he was already planning otherwise. Hours later, their ships launched into the void. The convoy stretched ahead, the command shuttle gliding between escort fighters. Lyra led at the front, Daniel flying at her wing. The silence of space pressed heavy. Asteroids drifted like silent watchers. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Lyra's hands gripped her controls tightly. She told herself she would not let Daniel's defiance ruin this mission. Then it happened. Raiders burst from behind the asteroids, engines flaring, weapons blazing. Plasma fire streaked across the void, striking shields, shaking hulls. The shuttle trembled under the sudden attack. "Hold formation," Lyra commanded sharply. Her squad locked tight around the shuttle, shields forming a barrier. Plasma fire slammed into them, lighting the darkness with bursts of flame. But Lyra saw danger. Raiders were splitting their forces, half striking the front, half circling to the rear. The shuttle was vulnerable. Her mind raced. The formation would hold against the front, but the rear attack would strike hard, she calculated. Reinforcements would arrive too late. Her teeth clenched. All ships, hold position. Then, just as before, Daniel moved. His fighter broke formation, engines burning bright. He dove toward the rear raiders, guns blazing, weaving, through enemy fire with reckless speed. Explosions erupted behind the shuttle as he tore into the attackers. "Cross," Lyra roared. "Return to formation, that is an order." "No time." Daniel's voice was calm but fierce. "They'll breach the shuttle's shields if I don't stop them." Her claws dug into her controls. Fury boiled in her chest. Again, he defied her. Again, he chose chaos over discipline, but his attack worked. The rear raiders broke apart, scattering under his fire. The shuttle survived. And yet, the cost was high. Plasma slammed into Daniel's fighter. His shields flared, his hull cracked, smoke trailing as alarms screamed. His ship spun dangerously before he steadied it again. Lyra's heart clenched. For a moment, she thought he was gone. The squad fought back with renewed fire, crushing the remaining raiders. The shuttle pushed forward, shields battered but intact. Finally, silence returned to the void. The mission was complete. Relief swept through the squad. Cheers crackled over comms. But Lyra's relief burned into rage. "Back, Eddie." Base, the squad celebrated victory. Soldiers laughed, clapped Daniel's back, praised his daring attack. But Lyra stormed through the hangar, her armor still scorched from battle. "Cross," she snapped. Her voice echoed like thunder. The hangar fell silent. Daniel turned toward her, his face calm but weary. "With me," she ordered coldly. The squad exchanged uneasy looks as the two walked into a side chamber. The doors closed behind them. Lyra turned on him, her fury breaking free. "You reckless fool," she shouted. "You nearly got yourself killed. You endangered the mission. You disobeyed me again." Daniel's voice was steady, but anger burned in his eyes. "I saved the shuttle. Without me, those raiders would have ripped through the rear, you know it." "You don't get to decide," Lyra snapped. "I am commander. My word is law. And your law would have killed us all." Daniel's voice rose now, sharp and fierce. "You're so trapped in your discipline, so blinded by your grief that you can't see the battlefield. You can't see the enemy right in front of you." Her chest heaved, her claws trembling. "You dare speak to me this way? You, a human, outsider, dare lecture me about war?" His voice dropped low, cold. "I don't care what you think of me, I don't care if you hate me. But I won't stand by while soldiers die because you're too stubborn to admit you're wrong." The words struck like knives. Lyra staggered, her breath sharp. Memories of Kael'thir's death crashed over her. She had blamed herself all along, hidden it beneath her anger at Daniel. But now he was forcing the truth into the open. Her voice cracked. "You think you understand, you don't. You didn't know him, you didn't see him die because of me." Daniel's eyes softened, but his voice stayed firm. "I've read every report. I know he sacrificed himself to save the squad. That wasn't your fault. It was his choice. And you're punishing me because you can't forgive yourself." Her chest burned. She wanted to scream, to strike, to silence him. But his words pierced too deep. The door suddenly opened. Two squad members stood there, eyes wide. They had overheard. Behind them, more soldiers gathered, drawn by the shouting. The silence was heavy, sharp as a blade. One soldier finally spoke. "Commander, with respect, he's right. If he hadn't acted, the shuttle would have been lost." Lyra's heart froze. The squad, her soldiers, the ones who had always trusted her without question. Now doubt filled their eyes. Another soldier added, "We followed orders, Commander, but his instinct saved us. Maybe we should listen to both." The words cut deeper than any blade. The squad was losing faith. In her. Lyra's vision blurred with fury and shame. She looked at Daniel, standing tall, his face calm but resolute. She had wanted him to be her enemy, but now even her squad began to see him as their savior. Her voice was a whisper, trembling with rage. "Get out." Daniel's jaw tightened. He said nothing. He simply walked past her, past the squad, his eyes unreadable. Lyra stood frozen, her chest heaving, her heart torn apart. The squad dispersed quietly, their silence heavier than any battle, for, the first time in her life, Commander Lyra Valen felt something worse than grief. She felt doubt. That night, Lyra sat in darkness, Kael'thir's insignia badge clutched in her claws. The room felt cold, her heart heavier than stone. She replayed the battle in her mind over and over. She replayed Daniel's words, the squad's eyes, the doubt in their voices. Was she truly blind? Had her grief chained her so tightly that she was leading her squad to ruin? She wanted to reject the thought, to bury it beneath anger. But the truth was there, pressing hard against her soul. The asteroid field loomed ahead like jagged teeth in the void. Commander Lyra Valen's ship glided carefully between the massive rocks, her eyes scanning for any sign of raiders. The mission seemed routine, reconnaissance, and data retrieval, but, in war, nothing was ever simple. Lyra's fighter shook as a small impact rattled the hull. She cursed under her breath. Raiders. They were clever, hiding among the asteroids, waiting for an opportunity to strike. She adjusted her controls, weaving her ship through the field, alert to every movement. Beside her, Daniel Cross flew with the same steady precision he always had. But today, even his calm demeanor seemed tense. "We've got trouble," Daniel said quietly, eyes narrowing. "Sensors show multiple contacts behind the next belt. They're waiting for us." Lyra nodded without speaking. She trusted her instincts and her squad, but her mind kept wandering back to the previous mission. The doubt, the anger, the lesson that Daniel had shown her. She shoved it aside. Not now. Survival first. Suddenly, a warning light flashed. A missile streaked past her cockpit. Plasma bolts flared around her shields. "Incoming fire!" she shouted. Daniel reacted instantly, weaving between the rocks and firing back. He took down one of the raider ships with a precise burst, but there were too many. Another missile struck Lyra's fighter, sending it spinning. Alarms blared. Her hull integrity dropped sharply. "Lyra, hold on." Daniel's voice was firm, almost commanding, yet steady. He shot forward, colliding with debris, forcing the raiders to split their fire between him and her. The impact tore part of her wing off. Her controls struggled to respond. The ship lurched violently, and Lyra gritted her teeth, fighting for control. And then, silence. Her systems went dark. She felt the cold emptiness of space pressing in. Her fighter drifted, powerless. Daniel's voice crackled through the comms. "Lyra, do you copy? You need to eject." "No," she snapped, though the panic in her chest betrayed her. "I can still—" The ship shuddered violently and spun again. Lyra's hands shook. There was no control, no options, just the void. "Lyra, listen." Daniel's voice was insistent now. "Eject. I'll get to you." Her fingers hesitated over the release. Pride and fear warred inside her. She had been a commander for years, surviving countless battles. She could not let herself be rescued, like a helpless rookie. But the choice was made for her. A plasma bolt struck the fighter again and her cockpit glass cracked. The controls died completely. With a deep, shuddering breath, she activated the emergency ejection system. The seat rocketed away, tumbling in zero gravity as her fighter spun into a small asteroid. Lyra floated in the void, tethered only to her emergency seat. The cold of space was sharp against her scales, the silence crushing. She tried to activate her suit thrusters, but they were damaged. Behind her, a flash of light. Daniel's fighter cut through the darkness. His engines flared as he maneuvered with unmatched precision, dodging plasma fire, weaving around asteroids. He fired warning shots at the raiders, drawing their attention away from her drifting form. "Hold on, Lyra," he shouted over comms. "I'm coming for you." Her heart pounded. Anger, fear, pride, and something else, hope, clashed within her. She had hated him. She had despised his recklessness. And now, he was risking everything for her. The raiders closed in, plasma bolts cutting dangerously close. Daniel dove. Between them and Lyra, acting as a shield, drawing fire, dodging strikes with impossible skill. Almost there, he yelled. Lyra tried to calm her breathing, watching him fight through the swarm. Every move he made was precise, instinctive, yet bold. She had criticized him before for being reckless. Now, she realized it wasn't recklessness. It was courage. Just a little closer. Daniel muttered, guiding his fighter alongside her drifting seat. He extended the magnetic tether, locking onto her suit. Slowly, steadily, he pulled her toward his ship, dodging missiles and plasma fire with perfect timing. Lyra's claws dug into the armrest of her ejection seat as debris slammed past them. Every second felt like an eternity. But Daniel never faltered. His focus never wavered. Finally, she was secure inside his cockpit. Daniel maneuvered them away from the immediate danger, hiding behind a large asteroid until the raiders had moved past. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the sound of their breathing. Lyra's chest heaved. She could hardly speak, her scales slick with sweat. For the first time she saw him, not as the human she despised, but as a hero, the man who had saved her life. Daniel glanced at her, his expression serious but calm. "You okay?" She wanted to speak, but no words came. She looked away, ashamed. Pride and guilt clashed inside her. "You," she started, her voice barely a whisper. "You didn't have to do that. You could have left me." "I wasn't going to leave you," he said simply. "Not you, not anyone in this squad. We survive together, or we die apart. That's the choice." Her mind spun. All her anger, all her resentment, all the doubt she had carried about humans, they shattered under the weight of his action. Her voice caught. She could not finish. Daniel leaned back slightly, giving her space. "I know you don't like me. Maybe you never will. But I don't need you to like me, Lyra. I just need you alive." The words were simple. They were honest. And for the first time in weeks, Lyra felt something she had not allowed herself to feel since Kael'thir's death: relief and gratitude. The journey back to the base was tense, but safe. Lyra stayed silent, her mind replaying every detail. Daniel had saved her. Not because she asked, not because he had to, but because he chose to. By the time they landed, the sun of a nearby star glinting off the hangar walls, something had shifted. Inside her, she could not deny it any longer. Daniel Cross was no replacement for Kael'thir. He was his own man. Brave, loyal, dangerous in ways that terrified her and yet inspired her. And he had just saved her life. That evening, Lyra sat alone in her quarters, the insignia badge of Kael'thir clutched in her claws. Her mind was heavy, her heart conflicted. She thought about the battles, the squad, and Daniel's fearless act. Pride battled with guilt, anger fought with admiration. She had despised him. She had wanted to dismiss him as a reckless human. But now, she could not. Part of her wanted to thank him. A part of her wanted to apologize. A part of her wanted to push him away forever. But one thing was clear. He had earned her trust, even if she was not ready to admit it. Lyra exhaled slowly, staring at the insignia badge. Kael'thir's memory would always remain with her. A constant shadow. But perhaps she could learn to fight with Daniel, rather than against him. The void of space stretched endless and dark, but today it felt alive with danger. Raiders had launched a coordinated attack on a Dominion outpost in the Zareth expanse. The outpost was critical, holding food, weapons, and vital supplies for the fleet. If it fell, the Dominion forces would be crippled. Commander Lyra Valen's squad had been assigned to respond immediately. Every ship took its place in formation, engines glowing, shields humming. Lyra stood at the helm of her fighter, determination hard in her golden eyes. But this time, she was not alone in spirit. Daniel Cross was beside her, a human warrior. She had once despised, now a comrade she could not ignore. The squad entered the expanse. Asteroids and debris scattered across the battlefield, hiding raiders who lurked with deadly patience. Sensors blinked red, alerts warning of multiple enemy contacts converging on the outpost. "Hold formation," Lyra said firmly, but her tone had changed. There was no harsh anger now, only command. "We'll shield the convoy first, then strike the raiders in coordinated fire." Daniel nodded, his fighter gliding in perfect sync with hers. They had trained together since the last mission, learning each other's strengths and weaknesses. He did not need orders shouted at him now. They communicated in instinct, movement, and eye contact. Lyra could feel it, the change inside herself. She no longer viewed Daniel as a reckless human. She saw him as a partner, one whose bravery and skill were unmatched. The battle erupted like a storm. Raiders poured from behind asteroids, plasma bolts flaring across the darkness. The outpost's shields shook, alarms blaring. "Split up," Lyra commanded. "Focus on their forward line first." Daniel took the right flank, moving like a shadow between the asteroids. Lyra covered the left. Their squad followed, formation tight, shields linking, weapons firing with deadly precision. A raider ship lunged toward the outpost's control tower. Lyra fired first, tearing through its shields, but it spun past her. Daniel saw the attack and dove toward the raider, his guns blazing. Together they destroyed it in a synchronized strike. "Nice timing," Lyra said over the comms, almost surprised at her own words. Daniel's voice came back, calm, teasing slightly. "We're learning from each other, Commander." Her claws tightened on the controls, but this time there was no anger, only focus. The raiders shifted tactics, sending a group to flank the squad from behind. Lyra noticed immediately. "Rear flank," she shouted. "Prepare for intercept." Before the squad could react, Daniel had already broken from his line, weaving between enemy fire, intercepting the flank with daring maneuvers that would have once infuriated her. Now she trusted his judgment. "Covering you," she said, her voice steady. She fired on the raiders attacking him, shields flaring, engines thrumming. The two of them moved together, a deadly duo. Lyra's disciplined tactics and Daniel's instincts complemented each other. Every maneuver, every attack, every dodge was seamless. The squad noticed. Whispers flew through comms. "They're perfect together. Commander, look at them. It's like they know each other's moves." Lyra's chest burned with pride. She still carried Cale Thier's memory, but she realized now that new bonds could be forged without dishonoring the old ones. Suddenly, a massive raider cruiser emerged from the shadows, shielding smaller fighters as it prepared a massive plasma, volley aimed at the outpost. "This is it," Lyra said. "We take that cruiser down or the outpost falls." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "We do it together." They exchanged a glance, silent but full of understanding. Lyra had learned to trust him. He had risked his life for her, and she had come to respect his courage and skill. "On my mark," she said. "We strike from opposite sides. Wait for my signal." The cruiser's weapons flared, aiming at the outpost. Lyra felt the tension, spike in her chest. Every moment counted. "Now!" she shouted. Their fighters darted through space, weaving between smaller ships and plasma fire. Lyra's targeting systems locked onto the cruiser's weak points. Daniel mirrored her movements, attacking from the opposite side. The explosion rocked the void as their synchronized strikes tore through the cruiser's hull. Shields failed, engines ignited, and finally, the massive raider ship broke apart, a dazzling display of fire and metal. The squad erupted in cheers over comms. The outpost shields stabilized. The mission was a success. After the battle, Lyra and Daniel floated beside each other in the hangar, ships returning from combat. Silence hung for a moment, heavy but not uncomfortable. Lyra finally spoke, her voice steady. "You fought well, better than I ever expected. You saved lives today. Again." Daniel shrugged modestly. "I'm just doing my job." "No, she said softly, almost smiling. You're more than that. You're a true partner. For a moment, Daniel's eyes widened slightly. Then a small smile appeared. I was hoping you'd say that, Commander. Lyra's claws relaxed. She felt a weight lift from her chest, one that she had carried since Kael'thir's death. She had lost her partner, yes, but she had found another, someone different, unpredictable, human. And yet, someone who could fight alongside her, trust her, and earn her respect. That evening, the squad gathered in the mess hall. Soldiers laughed, shared rations, and recounted the battle. Lyra and Daniel sat side by side, a rare moment of camaraderie. Some squad members whispered in surprise at their new bond. One soldier leaned toward another. I never thought I'd see it. The commander and the human, working together like that. Yeah, the other replied. They're unstoppable. Side by side, they could take on anything. Lyra overheard but didn't respond. Instead, she looked at Daniel. I owe you my thanks, not just for saving me, but for everything. For proving that humans can fight, can think, can stand beside us. Daniel's eyes softened. And I owe you my respect. You taught me discipline, strategy, and that sometimes we need to trust each other to survive. She smiled faintly. The squad had witnessed it all, the battles, the tension, the risk, and now the partnership. A bond had been forged stronger than any hatred, stronger than fear. Kael'thir's memory still lingered, but Lyra understood now that honoring the past did not prevent new bonds from forming. Daniel was not a replacement, he was an equal, a fighter, a partner she could trust with her life. The stars shone outside the hangar, calm and silent after the chaos of battle. Lyra and Daniel stood together, looking out at the endless expanse of space. Lyra finally admitted to herself the truth she had fought to ignore. She had despised him once, yes, but now she could not imagine facing the void without him by her side. Ready for the next mission? Daniel asked, a teasing glint in his eyes. Lyra smirked, a small laugh escaping her. Always, but this time we fight together. Daniel nodded. Together. The story of grief, anger, and distrust had ended. The story of trust, partnership, and courage had begun. And in the endless reaches of space, two warriors, one Arkan, one human, stood ready to face whatever the galaxy threw at them, united. Because some bonds could not be broken, and some partnerships, born of loss and hardship, became stronger than anything else in the stars.